But that price might not exist tomorrow when people no longer want to gamble, when the illusion wears off. I mean,
I called the top on the day. I called the Bitcoin top on the day, and I've done this 2 cycles in a row. While everyone else is telling you about $100,000 Bitcoin, $1 million Bitcoin, I'm telling you that this is the top, and I publish the chart. And I've done that 2 cycles in a row. You call the top every single day because you're a noob speculator that doesn't know about technical analysis, that doesn't know about fundamental analysis, that's never minded Bitcoin, that's not as successful in business as me. You're a noob. You are a noob.
Where's the next low then for Bitcoin?
Traditionally, Bitcoin drops 85% after a parabolic blow-off top. This cycle was different because the government, it should go down to about 11K. So since it was...
That's a reasonable expectation.
Agree. Yes, because it's what it has been doing for decades. It always drops 85%.
What's going to happen to Hex?
Hex continues to have giant dips like it always has, but it also makes new all-time highs. You got to understand that an 80% dip only cancels out a 5x pump. And when you have a 1,000,000% pump, you would have to drop 999999999% to cancel it out. And
just because Bitcoin or Hex has come back from a previous crash doesn't mean it's going to come back from every crash. Because one crash may be the final crash.
No. There's scientific laws to describe
the Flynn. So Hex is guaranteed to go up?
No, it goes up and down all the time. It just tends to go up more than down. It's dropped 75% like 5 or 6 times.
But it could drop 95% or 99%
absolutely.
or 100%,
yes.
can't it? And it may never
Hex
come
could
back,
literally, it's unlikely, that last part. The last part's unlikely.
Well, yeah. See, what are the odds? I mean, I think it's more likely than not.
I mean, look at, you have to, well, I'll tell you. There's a coin that was literally made as a joke in an afternoon that is inferior technology called Dogecoin. Dogecoin is a copy of Litecoin, and Litecoin is a copy of Bitcoin. And basically the difference between Litecoin and Dogecoin is they changed the logo and they made it inflate more. And it's actually, they don't even have their own miners. They're merge mined with Litecoin, and Litecoin's trash on its own. So it's a copy of trash. And I don't even like Bitcoin that much. You know, people say Bitcoin's never been hacked. Yes, it has. The network was forked once. Somebody printed 6 billion extra coins. There was another hack that could have been executed 2 years ago where anyone could have minted as many free Bitcoin as they wanted, but the developer responsible disclosed it instead of just minting all the free Bitcoin. I tell people the truth about the prices, that every cryptocurrency drops 85% more often than people wished, except for stable coins, and they have huge counterparty tail end risk. I'm very honest about the price risk. I'm very honest about what these things can and can't do. Bitcoin's trash technology. It has very low throughput. You can never do all the transactions of the world on it. It has a very conservative roadmap. They almost never improve it. The price performance is garbage. I mean, from the COVID dip, Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin by 3-fold, and Hex outperformed it by 100-fold.
With all those flaws, why do you maintain it's better than gold?
Well, because the price chart of gold sucks. And the problem with gold is,
you're just looking at a 40-year price chart. You know, so
I'm only 40 years old, bro. How far back should I go?
Well, if you were my age, you could go further back and see gold. When I was born, gold was $35 an ounce, and now it's $1,910.
Listen, you can't keep flip-flopping. You're flip-flopping. You're flip-flopping. You can't start the conversation by saying, I don't suggest anyone invest in it, and then come hard later and act like you're the hero.
No. I'm not. Gold is a better store of value than fiat currency. And so if you want to save, I recommend saving in gold. There's a difference between saving and investing.
Could you pick a weaker opponent than fiat? That's the weakest comparison imaginable. Like, everything's better than fiat.
Well, that's what gold.
Used cars are up 40%. Used cars are up 40%. Yes. My Rolex is up 3x.
To me, I think gold is actually pretty cheap right now, which is why I have about. Well, yeah, you know, that may be the case. I mean, platinum is normally higher than gold. Platinum, I agree, platinum looks pretty cheap.
Well, there's stuff we agree on, Peter. There is.
I think gold is so low right now that, you know, in my personal portfolio, about half of what I own is in gold and silver mining stocks. So I have made a big personal bet. I think gold is so cheap right now, I'm investing in the companies that own it and mine it. And I do think that a mining company that owns gold and mines it and pays a dividend, that is an investment. Now, over time, gold mining companies are not the greatest investments to hold for a lifetime. But if you think there's going to be a big bull market in gold, which I do, I think over the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to have some spectacular returns in gold mining stocks, and so I have a much bigger allocation there than I do to the physical metal, which I just regard as savings. And then my other allocations, I have overweighted other hedge areas. I have my second biggest allocation is to the energy sector. So I have a lot of money in that sector because I'm particularly concerned about inflation and about what that does to the value of fiat currencies and the impact that has on commodities, all commodities, not just gold. And so I want to own companies that are positioned to benefit from a huge bull market in commodities.
I mean, I agree with much of what you said there. I think inflation's terrible.
I think we should just change gear a little bit. And
Good.
I want to apologise to everybody. The sound quality is not great at Richard's end.
Is it too quiet? Because I'm maxed out clipping.
Is it? I do apologise.
I'm going to turn my mic down.
No, he said it's on my end. I don't.
I mean, I see red bars. I know what clipping looks like. So
well, should I can move my lapel mic lower on my lapel. Does that help?
It helps.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, look, I'm not clipping now. Am I good now, guys?
Okay, Richard's good. A little bit of a challenge with Peter, but thank you for moving it down. I asked both of you to submit a question to the other person. And so here is that question that you both asked each other. And first of all, it's Richard's special question to Peter. Mm-hmm. Peter, have you ever thought about how much money you've cost people that followed your advice over the years? Or the kids that didn't get to go to college? Or the bills, medical bills that were not paid? And the loss of lifestyle because of your bad advice?
Well, I don't think I've been giving bad advice over the last 20 years, so the answer to that question is no. I haven't thought about that. You know, I mean, over the course of 20 years, I mean, have there been investments, individual investments that I've recommended that didn't work out? Of course, there have been. And there have been that have worked out spectacularly well. You know, over 20 years ago, you know, what was I investing in? I was investing in, you know, energy stocks when oil was under $20 a barrel before it ran up to 150. I had a lot of gold stocks when gold was under 300 and, you know, went up to, you know, 1900 by 2011. I had big positions in emerging markets. I avoided the entire dot-com collapse. I spent most of the late 1990s convincing people to sell their dot-com stocks, and I built my initial brokerage business based on getting people to get out of the dot-com bubble. I saved people a fortune. You should see some of the letters I got from clients who would have been wiped out, but I got them out of the stock market before it crashed, and I got them in to foreign markets. I got people out of the US dollar when the dollar index was about 120, and then it went down to 70. And, you know, we had a tremendous, remember, for the first decade of this century, 2000 to 2010, it was a lost decade in the U.S. stock market. And so we were able to make a lot of money by avoiding U.S. market. And in the middle of that, you know, I helped set up a hedge fund to short the subprime market in 2006 that paid off, you know, more than tenfold in 2007. Not that many advisors were shrewd enough back then to understand the problems in the mortgage market and to have positioned people short subprime. So I've done a lot of things that have been right. What I got wrong was the decade from 2011 to really 2021. I had assumed when I was forecasting the 2008 financial crisis and warning about the housing bubble, I thought that after all my forecasts came true, that we would see a drop in the US dollar. And so I built stock portfolios that were based on a weak dollar. And we didn't get a weak dollar, we got a strong dollar. I knew that the Federal Reserve was going to try to reflate the bubbles that popped in stocks and real estate. What I didn't know is that they would succeed. I thought the world would see through what they were doing, that it would see QE for what it was, debt monetization, and we'd have a dollar crisis. Now, I still believe I'm going to be right, and in fact, my investment strategy, which didn't do very well from 2013 through the end of 2015, has outperformed dramatically since the end of 2015. So from 2016 to today, I've done, you know, much better than any of my benchmarks, and I've you know, beaten them by very, very wide margins. But I think my clients and myself are very well positioned now for the ultimate dollar collapse that I did prepare people for, you know, albeit a decade too early. But we are well positioned, and we've had good gains over that decade. Could we have made more money if we were just in, some NASDAQ stocks? Well, up until a month ago, yeah. Now I'd have to check again because we've had some huge declines recently. But I do believe that ultimately the people who have followed my investment advice over the years, no matter what time frame they picked, even if they happen to adopt my advice at the most inopportune of times, because a lot of it depends on when you start getting into foreign stocks and when you start getting into the gold stocks. You can get in at different times. But I think ultimately it's not going to matter when you got in. I think the people that follow my advice will be in much better shape financially than the people who ignore my advice. Sure, would people have made more money had they just bought Bitcoin 10 years ago? And sure, of course. I mean, it's obvious that's the case. But most people didn't do that. Most people who bought Bitcoin 10 years ago only put in a small amount of money because they recognized that it was a gamble. They only put in more money recently after the price went way up. And so a lot of those people are now down overall on their Bitcoin. Even though they have profits on what they bought originally, they have bigger losses on what they bought more recently because they put larger sums of money. And ultimately, I think people who follow my advice on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are going to be much better off than the people who ignored it because the losses are going to be staggering in crypto. People are going to lose a tremendous amount of money. Most people are not only going to lose their paper profits, but they're going to lose what they originally started with. They're going to lose their principal. The only people who are going to end up making money in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are the people who sold. And then, of course, they're going to have to defend what they got away with in court because just like when Bernie Madoff blew up, all the people who lost money were looking to claw back money from the people who gained. And I think the same thing is going to happen. Not that I necessarily agree with it or not, but I know how the world operates. And there's going to be a lot of people pointing fingers. And unfortunately, after the horses leave the barn's door, after the horses leave the barn, the government's going to try to close it. I think a lot of regulations are going to come, unnecessary regulations in the legitimate part of the financial industry, because so many people are going to lose so much money in crypto. It's going to give capitalism another black eye that capitalism doesn't need. And it's going to allow the government to say, you see, look what happens with capitalism. People get conned, people lose all their money, and they're going to say the solution is more government, which of course is not. That is simply going to make the situation worse.
Peter, you're still going to stand by the fact that you were stating very publicly that crypto, Bitcoin, will go to zero. Are you standing by that?
Well, I've been saying that for a long time. Eventually, sure, it's going to go to zero. It may take a while to get to zero, but there's not going to be much of a difference if Bitcoin goes to 100 than zero. If you bought it at 40 or 50,000, if it gets anywhere near zero, it's going to feel like zero.
Richard,
so guys,
did you want to
it's very simple. Peter has a lot of parade of imaginary horribles. Everything's going to go wrong. You could listen to Peter, or you could just look at the chart. Does this look like everyone lost their money? There's dips. Those are people taking profits. Those are guys getting cashed out. Those are guys getting rich and buying yachts and golf courses and jets and Ferraris and Lamborghinis and you name it. That's what those dips are. And these are big dips, guys. These are 60 and 70% dips hiding in here. But 60 and 70% dips don't matter when you overcome them with 500 and 600% gains. Cryptocurrency is a world of free money. Free money. As a Bitcoin holder, you got Hex for free. When I mined Bitcoin, it was free. I double-clicked the EXE on my computer. As a Hex holder, our community received free Uniswap token, free 1-inch token, because we use these products and we were just given the coins for free. We received free Git coins. We received tons of free coins out the yin-yang, literally free money. And here's what's weird about crypto and about me as a person. If you see a guy drowned in jewelry and covered with all this spectacle, your brain would be right to say scammer. When you see charts of 1,000,000% returns in 2 years, you're right to think, oh, it's got to be a scam. And you'd be 99.9% right. It would save you a lot of money and a lot of horror, and it would save you a lot of pyramid schemes and a lot of scams and a lot of Ponzi's. It would save you all that. But you would also miss that one rare little sliver of world change that actually happened. Amazon dropped 95% in the year 2000. 95%. You could have pointed at it and said, look, late stage capitalism, Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, greater fool. What can you do with these shares anyway? You can't do anything. You can't affect the company. You're just hoping to sell to the greater fool, which is all the shares, by the way. And guess what? They're over half of all the commerce in the United States on the internet now. Over half of all the money made on the internet goes directly into Amazon's pockets, even though it dropped 95%. And so this new paradigm of massive drops with massive gains is what the future looks like, particularly when the money is more and more fake. The reason all these charts are so easy to get to go up and right is because they're priced in the dollar. And the dollar just gets worth less every day. The dollar is mostly garbage. You only occasionally see it go up in value right when the stock market crashes. And the stock market used to crash every 10 years, but they decided to skip a cycle and just print their way out of it. So I've created something that is one of the few things in the world that can change man's relationship to government. You don't have to beg the government to give you their fake inflated money. You can use your own money that's peer-to-peer. You can trust math instead of men.
Yeah, you could use your fake inflated money instead. But you know, you gave
like you
away
can't read
a
a
lot
chart.
of coins for free. Right.
Why don't you make a crypto then, bro, and see how it does?
The chart's not over. Wait
Go
till
make
it
a crypto.
Because I don't want to scam people.
Right.
I don't want to take advantage of people.
That's why you don't have any gold prices on your gold website. So let me ask you a question. Since you're such a nice guy, when I go to your website, you don't put any prices.
You can ask me a question in a second. Let me just ask you this, or I want to make this point. You gave away a lot of free Hex.
Yes.
But the reason that anybody made money in Hex is because somebody came and bought it.
Yep.
There are people going into the market buying Hex with actual money or fiat currency, whatever they're using, Ether, whatever it is. And the only reason some people who got free Hex were able to sell any and buy a yacht or a mansion is because some other fool bought that Hex from them. That's the person who's going to lose money. They put real money into your fake coins, and they're going to lose because that person thinks he's going to sell his at a higher price at some distant point in the future. But the reality is he's never going to sell them. They're not going to be worth anything because nobody's going to want to buy them.
Says the guy that's always been wrong about it. The chart doesn't lie, bro. The math is real. You can, if you don't like crypto, sell it for gold.
I'm not saying that Hex hasn't gone up from the day you created it until right now.
So we've got like 100,000 stakers. You don't think we're going to have 200,000?
Let's see what that chart looks like 10 years from now. Let's see what it looks like. You know,